particularly after a few drinks, chances my arm with anything that I do. And I have a good record, a good head for the words of songs, but I'm afraid that every song sounds the same out of me. And there was one particular song she used to sing over and over again. And I was sorry, I didn't know what it was about. And it was my only son was shot in Dublin. And God, she used to go on with this. And it was a lovely song. It was really beautiful Irish, we call it vernacular song. And it was something like this. And again, forgive me now because I'm here with musicians, and if I see anyone running for the door, like, I don't blame you. The night was dark and the fight was ended. The moon shone down on the street. I stood alone, where brave men perish. Those men have gone, they've gone from me. I was saying, what men, and what's all Connell Street, and what's all this about, sort of thing like that. And she'd say, don't worry, it was me just a long time ago, and she wouldn't really tell you anything at all that happened. But from time to time then, she might be in a different form, and she'd talk about a young man called Mick Gallivan. And Mick Gallivan was from a place called Drumbeg in Listowel, and Drumbeg is out on the Ballylongford Road. It's just off the Ballylongford Road. And Mick Gallivan was quite an interesting man. You see, there's a lad there now, Ger Fitzgerald, and Ger would have often heard of Mick Gallivan. But Mick Gallivan had gone away in 1914 to fight in the First World War. So he left his home in Drumbeg to fight in the First World War. And he'd come back afterwards to fight for Irish freedom. And if you like, when all is said and done, the First World War was to secure the freedom of a small nation. So it wasn't lost on Irish people that say, we know how to do our bit to fight for our own country and get its freedom. And Mick was one of these men. But she didn't tell me any story about him being a soldier of the Irish Republic or of the IRA or anything else like that. She used to refer to him just as a fair-haired lad that used to come in to their pub in Willow Street and so this brought it alive for me. And Mick Gallivan was killed over in Kilmorman in April 1921. And in April 1921, the following month, we had the tragic events around the killing of 3 volunteer officers in Gortiglenna. And I understand that Owen has covered all that before, so you're all well versed in that. You don't want to hear about that from me at all, because you probably know more about it than I do as well. But Gortiglenna, that was the great song of North Kerry, the valleys of Knockanoor. And it was lovely because the names of the volunteers were preserved through the medium of song. So it was in May 1921. And just very briefly, I want to go back to March 1921. And I want to tell you a little story from North Kerry. And this is all, I'll try and link all this together as best I can, and hopefully it'll all work out. Is that over near Abbeydorney, in the middle of March 1921, at the height of the Black and Tan War, there was a Black and Tan shot dead. And his name was John Grant. And John Grant was described to me as being a ginger-haired man. And he was a Scotsman. But believe it or not, he was going out with a local girl. And as it happened, the local girl was the sister of the company captain of the IRA. So this really brought home to the reality of the war in 1921 in North Kerry. So this didn't go down so well anyway, and it was resolved that he should be shot. And poor John Grant was shot dead in Tullycrimmon in March 1921. Now John Grant had a little dog, and everywhere John Grant went, the dog went with him. And when John Grant was shot dead, his little dog ran back to the post in Abbeydorney. And the police and soldiers there figured that poor John Grant had met his doom anyway. So they went out anyway, and they quickly identified the man responsible for shooting John Grant. And they were quite correct in this, and they raided his house. And when they raided the house, the man of course wasn't there at all, but the rest of his siblings were there. So they brought on 2 of his brothers, and they were brought into Tralee. And when they were in Tralee, they were brought into the police barracks, and they were interrogated there. And their interrogators were 2 well-known policemen named Culleton and Delaroy. To the wits of Tralee, these 2 fellows had a fearsome reputation. They were known as Big Paddy and the Jew Man. And the boys were fairly sweating inside Tralee now at this stage. That would say they knew that John Grant was dead. They knew that who was responsible, who was their brother, and they were expecting an unmerciful hiding, seeing as the brother couldn't be got. But much to their surprise, they got a soft run at the interrogation, and they were given a kick in the transom and told get out, but it wouldn't go well if their brother was ever captured. And they were most amazingly surprised to be presented with shamrock on leaving Tralee Barracks around Paddy's Day 1921. Now on Paddy's Day 1921, the weather was very bad, right? And in the meanwhile, down in the middle of Kerry, a new organiser had come down to reorganise the IRA, and his name was Andy Cooney. And Andy Cooney was only a young man, and he came down and he reorganised them, and he brought the activists together from Castleisland, Fireys, Fanfour, Kinmare, Rathmore, Scaptaglen, all these areas together, and he put them through a course of training. And around the same time as the boys were being kicked out, the two brothers were being kicked out of the barracks in Tralee, there was a few more lads, and they decided to attack Farm 4 barracks, and it was at night time. But the attack on Farm 4 barracks was only a sham attack, and the idea was to draw out the police from Castleisland, and they'd be attacked on the road. But as luck would have it, no one came out from Castleisland, so no attack took place in the Castleisland Farm 4 road on that spring's morning, March 1921. So as my late father said, they gathered their traps, and it wasn't safe to stay around Castleisland, so they took off up into the hill country, up around Scaptaglen, and there they were entertained because quite a few of the column were good singers and they were fiddle players, and Jim Bailey, who we'll speak about later, was particularly involved in this. He was a fiddle player, and another man from Ballymac, one of the Hurleys, gave a recitation. So even back in those days, in the middle of all the troubles, there was time for the music and song. So it wasn't safe to stay in Scaptaglen either, so they moved on to Headford. So this is just by way of background to the events that led to Headford damage. So now I let whoever's going to sing about Headford.
Is a grave so grand, wherein brave Captain Almond sleeps, who died for Ireland. In fighting the oppressor, he fought both loyal and true, commanding that flying column of Kerry and the two. Then guerrilla warfare was the only way to meet the armament of England, or England's aerial fleet. Why not retreat when overpowered and meet the foe again? Should Marshal Falk retreated with 30,000 men.
And about to God, he fled aside. And it is also repeated in recent history in the north that anybody who survives an attack comes under suspicion. It's unfortunate. It comes under suspicion. And that is, you know, you have the same, and the tragedy of Ballyseedy was repeated at Countess Bridge as well in Killarney, and was repeated in Carrickfergus, and there was another survivor in Killarney of the Countess Bridge. But it just, I couldn't imagine somebody going through the torture he went through for being an informer, if it was. So, but it just shows you the climate at that time, Kathleen, that they wouldn't even talk about it, even to face one another. Very sad, and that's why I think the event.
I make a statement of it.
They called the events of Clash America. And Dorothy McCarthy went around in 1924 to collect the stories of these events, these tragic events in Kerry and in the Civil War, and brought out a timeless book. And she starts the narrative about Clash America by saying, as long as grass will grow, the story of Hero Lyons will be told in the district. And there was 8 casualties acknowledged in Headford. There was 8 casualties at Ballyseedy, and unfortunately there was to be 8 casualties also at Clash Caves. And Clash Caves then started out telling any story. It's very hard to know where to start, and I can almost hear you saying, well, you start at the beginning, but when it comes to Irish history, often to even find the beginning is quite difficult. But I'm going to start this story by talking about a meeting that was held up in Rahy in September 1922. And at that meeting, it was attended by my grandmother, that I mentioned's brother, and his name was Dr. Roger Connor of Listowel. And the meeting was raided, and Dr. Roger was captured and brought off to Limerick jail. And along with Dr. Roger that day was Timmy Lyons of Kilflynn. And Timmy Lyons was known to all and sundry as A.O. Lyons, from his ability to just appear out of the blue anywhere. And during the earlier years, Tim Lyons came up with a man called Egan and served with the North Kerry column, and is listed in Tony Gaughan's book about Listowel as such. And in the aftermath of the meeting in Rahy, Tim Lyons was now safely inside in Limerick jail. And would you believe it, he escaped out of Limerick jail. And how he escaped out of Limerick jail was very simple. It was probably the easiest escape of all. There was a man called Halloran of Palace, which was on the Listowel Road, due for release. And his name was called out one day and up presented about Timmy Lyons. And not only did he get out of Limerick jail, but he took the luxury of taking the train down to somewhere around Abbeyfield. He got the train down to Abbeyfield, as you do as an escaped prisoner, head held high. And from Abbeyfield, he went up to Knocknagoshel, where Jimmy the Master Connor records him and has given him a gun, and from there he made his way back to his homeland in the Kilflynn area. And there he gathered together a band of about 9 or 10 fellas, and they interchanged between units. Stephen Fuller served with him at different times, and Tim Toomey served with him. But in April 1923, when the Civil War was coming to an end, there was a raid for them from the Free State officers and men in Tralee. And he was a very headstrong man, Lyons, and he was a stubborn man, and some would say probably not very bright, but he loved a bit of crack or blackguarding. So he decided to attack the patrol, even though he was heavily outnumbered. So what he did with his 9 men is he got the first man to fire at them, and the party which included cyclists had to dismount and take cover and try and figure out where the rifle fire had come from. By the time they had figured it out, the man was gone, maybe a quarter of a mile down the road, at which stage the next man fired from the area. And they really put the Free State Patrol under serious pressure, and they kept them going, and it was like fighting an invisible enemy. But the last laugh was on Lyons anyway, because Lyons retreated that night with 5 comrades into Clashmilkin Caves, which is very near Meanigahan, on a wild part of the Kerry coast. But the Free State got information they were there. 3 of his men had gone on to a dance that seemed to be very popular at that time, and they'd gone on to Ballybunnin, so they were saved. And the soldiers weren't so sure whether they were there or not, and 2 men were sent down to investigate, and they were shot dead from the caves. They were O'Neill and Pearson, they were Free State soldiers. And that effectively sealed Lyons' fate. The weather got very bad, and they could go nowhere. They couldn't get out into the Atlantic. In fact, 2 of the men, Shea and McGrath, were first cousins, drowned. And after a number of days, Lyons surrendered. And the reason he surrendered, well, there was a combination of factors due to the weather. The tides were against him, lack of food. But among his men was a man called Jim McHenry. And Jim McHenry had a young son called Henry McHenry. And Henry McHenry, Lyons was very concerned about the fate of this married man and father. So he surrendered. And he surrendered to try to agree terms for his men, that they'd be spared, particularly McHenry. And the Free State said no. They were mindful that they had lost 2 of their men, even though the Republicans had lost 2 drowned at this stage. And there would be no surrender unless there was total surrender. So a rope was dropped down, and on the way up, climbing up the cliff face, Lyons fell to his death. And the question of house arose, and in fact it became the subject of endless debate as to whether the rope was cut or whether the rope broke. And you could often tell the allegiance of people of how.
And that Michael Flavin at one stage and it's very topical today, grabbed the official mace that they bring in when they're sitting in the Commons and flung it to the floor in the name of Irish freedom. But Dan Flavin said that he met Hathaway, and Hathaway told him that he was sent to Ireland and he was told that the Irish people were savages, and that he was in Tralee for a while before he came out in the street, and he got friendly and he found the people were very friendly, and he deserted the British Army, and then he joined the Volunteers. They were suspicious of him after, that he might have been a spy, but he then wanted to convert to Catholicism, and the bishop was approached and the priest was told not to baptize him. But he then left the Volunteers after the truce and went in and joined the Free State Army. And he was in the Free State Army, got a uniform and a rifle, and he was there about a week, I think. And he walked out and he presented the rifle to the Volunteers and he joined them again. So he was tied in Gahe, but he ended up with the Volunteers, and he was one of the men who was in the cave, and he was. The sad thing about it was, in George McCartney, they're very poignant. The last letter of Jim McHenry, the night before he was shot, was to his brother, Father Tom. Father Tom, I am leaving you all tomorrow morning. It is very hard that I cannot see you, but someday I hope we will meet in heaven. I have been in the Republic Army since 1916. I fought the Tans, and it is hard to think that my own countrymen are putting me to death. I forgive all my enemies. Look after my wife and child, who was the pride and joy of my heart. And I am asking you one request. Don't let anyone do anything. Bring Sonny up for the priesthood. It is a pity I did not get a chance to tell the story about the siege of the caves. It was just something awful. Say masses for me and my comrades. Console our dearest mother. It was her who was kind to me and did not forget my good wife and darling child. You will get a lock of my hair from Hannah. Cheer up now, dear brother, and pray for me. I am proud that I am dying a soldier of the Irish Republic. I never expected this would be my fate, but welcome be the will of God. Goodbye from your brother, Jim.
Good morning, all in a month of spring. The rifle shots rang in our ears while we heard the church bells ring, and louder still the shots rang out. You could hear their thunderous roar, while an ambush it had taken place down by the Shannon shore. The rebels were in their hiding place when an armed foe came on. They fired on them most fiercely, while they numbered 10 to 1. They held the fight till nearly night. Alas, they wasted their store. They pitched their camp that faithful night down by the Shannon shore.
And he would have been all right there, but he'd be in the firing line from the area parties to the north and the south. All he had to do was kind of lie low. When the Kenmare train came in, the soldiers got off as expected, and one soldier decided that he too needed to go to the toilet. He must have been catching. So he went down to the toilet, and sure, the toilet being a small edifice, he met Danny inside, and Danny had no option but to shoot him dead. And that started the battle. The problem was that the soldiers hadn't crossed the footbridge. So they were on the wrong platform, and there wasn't a clear line of fire. The men to the south, the train was in their way, they couldn't see the meter. So effectively, once Allman shot the policeman, the north fellow started shooting, and there were civilians mixed up with the soldiers. So this didn't go as planned at all, sort of thing, that's what I mean. Another unusual aspect about it is, and go back to my grandmother, is we've got to understand, and this is a strange thing to say, there was no real bitterness at that time against the soldiers. So it was very unusual for the IRA to take on the soldiers. Generally they were left Neither they got involved with the IRA or vice versa, strange as it may seem. And Headford is one of the rare exceptions to that. Anyhow, the crowd on the north side had the initial advantage, and a number of soldiers were killed. I imagine about 8 were killed straight off. But then the British fell into what I call the wells of the track, and they were relatively protected there. Allman in the meantime had retreated with a man called Jim Coffey, who had joined him at the end of the platform, and they tried to come in around the soldiers. But among the soldiers was a sniper, and he had shot dead Jim Bailey, who was in the act of throwing a bomb from the northern side, and he shot Allman dead as well. At this stage then, to further compound matters, if you're still with me, the Cork train came in early. And on the Cork train, there was a very significant party of military from the same unit as the men being attacked, and they joined in, and the IRA decided to retreat. Now they had a problem with their retreat because some were on the north side, and they would have to cross the open tracks to get to join their fellows in the south. They had pre-agreed to go towards the Kinmare side to retreat, but they successfully managed to disengage without any further casualties. And as I said, the official toll, the most significant action in Kerry during the War of Independence at Headford Junction in March 1921 was 8 dead and 11 wounded. And that's the story of Headford in his was there from his trial with one of the Healys, who was subsequently his brother-in-law, Denny Healy. The Ballymac were very well represented. Tom McAllister, John Cronin, Johnny Connor, known afterwards as the Machine Gun Connor, who was a TD subsequently, Jack Herlihy, Moss Carmody were among those involved. Jack Shanahan, the pharmacy people in Castle Island, was involved, and I have a lovely photo here of Jack Shanahan. Brosnan of Fan 4 was involved, men of Kinmare, Scarpine Connor of Kinmare. I have a full list of the names there. Some extras are added in. There were some local men involved as well from the Rathmore side as well. They were just drawn up as reinforcements. And I often think it's amazing how some of those, the subsequent, how those men turned out. Tom McAllister became a team.
The tears rolled from his eyes. It is underneath that gold green sod where young D.J. Allman lies. Oh, rise up, D.J. Allman, rise up and tell me plain, who went along with you that day for to ambush Headford train, who stood upon the platform bold and fired the signal gun, who fought and died for Ireland, 'twas you, my darling son. The day of Allman's funeral, it was a glorious sight. 24 clergymen, and they all dressed up in white. Allman's cap and rifle borne along by his side. The green flag floated overhead, his comrades marched behind. And now to conclude and to end my song, I have no more to say. May God have mercy on his soul who sleeps beneath the clay. May God have mercy on their souls who fell for Ireland's pride, who fought and bled at Headford where D.J. Allman died. No beer.
And it's not registered in the records, which is probably not surprising. But what is registered, believe it or not, is unknown. So Mick Galvin similarly is recorded in the register as unknown. So if you want to get your death cert, write up to the GRO and ask for a copy of Unknown's death cert from April 1921. Now just pick up on Kathleen's point. Maybe it is to do with the subsequent allegiances of the Civil War, but I don't think so. What I heard outside in Ballymackelliget in particular was that the Bailey family, whatever about the subsequent allegiance, thought that Jim Bailey was being led astray by the activists, the McAllisters and the Cronins and like those, and that effectively he had nearly fled his home, and the rest of them rather not unlike the first story I told you, where one man shot two fellas, shot John Grant, and his two brothers hadn't hand their part in the time, and this was recognised. So, as I understand it, the Bailey family thought that would say that this was terrible, that their son was being led astray by the area. Now, quite clearly, Jim Bailey was very steadfast in his beliefs, and he was a very active member of the volunteers. And it is recorded that he held up the train in Ballybrack when those two policemen, Woods and Turner, were shot dead the previous November, in the same time that Allman was shooting the men in Killarney. Right? Now, without getting into too much detail, those events in Ballybrack actually started over at Son Ulick's pub in Farm 4, and where they went to go to shoot him. And effectively the IRA started tracking these two particular gentlemen around the countryside and just didn't care. It's nearly beyond reckless that they sat inside in a pub in Farm 4 on the main Killarney Road, going out of their way to shoot fellas. And Jim Bailey was a member of that party, along with your neighbour Paddy Reedy. But anyway, we'll leave that. Now,
for Ireland, dear old Ireland, you bore a bitter cross when you lost it through a nobleman at Ballyseedy Cross. It being on a cold spring morning in the second reign of Thames, those true and noble Irish lads fell by their wicked hands, and how those tyrants beat them and trampled them like grass, before they took their sacred lives at Ballyseedy Cross. By Ballyseedy steeple view, not far from sweet Valley, those county staters laid a mine, as you can plainly see. The explosion wrecked the countryside, 'twas heard for miles away. 6 men were blown to fragments, with young Tommy and O'Shea. They tried to hide this awful crime, and friends best they could. But one young man, he did escape through Ballyseedy's woods. And how this man, he did escape, no one but God can tell. Before he bade his comrades a long and last farewell.
I tell you, it wasn't land at all. It was to do with a child, even that is the long and short of it. But 1921, we said, was a very fine year, and that was the year that the troubles, the first troubles, ended. Okay, and after the events in Castle Island that marked the end of that war, liaison officers were appointed, and George Shea of Kilflynn was appointed as a liaison officer to liaise should any events happen that involved the IRA. So the British Army would come out and liaise directly with George Shea to sort out any things that needed to be ironed out. And his opposite number on the British side was a fellow called Victor Harvey. Okay, Victor Harvey. And Victor Harvey has come out to Kilflynn on his motorbike, and he'd meet up with George Shea, and they discussed how things were going on, and they had no problem. And in fact, a most unlikely friendship developed between Victor Harvey and George Shea. George Shea's people were what my mother called very well got. They had their own independent 2-story house in Shannaballa in Kilflynn, was still there and held by the family. And George Shea was one of the unfortunate men that was taken out and blown up in Ballyseedy, having been captured with Stephen Fuller and Tim Toomey the previous month on the waterfall on the Tralee-Listowel Road. And if we roll on after the Civil War was well over and everything else, around 1932, George Shea's parents received a letter from England. And when they opened it, anyway, it was addressed to George Shea. The letter was from Victor Harvey, and he wanted to come back to Ireland. And he was wondering if it would be safe for him to do it, and that he'd love to meet up with George Shea to bring him around the areas where previously they had fought against each other and latterly they had developed a friendship. And you'd really cry at this. The parents had to write back to him and say, unfortunately George Shea lost his life in the Irish Civil War. Now, as a historian, I like just going down different tracks such as that and personal stories like that aren't in any history book at all, but like the songs, these things can't be forgotten either. And I like to think that somehow I've been privileged to custodian them the same way as Jim and Christy have preserved the songs. And his brother was killed as a Free State officer in a roundup in Scartaglen in the Civil War. Now it doesn't stop there. One of the girls, Diane Slattery, married Den Shea, a brother to George Shea that we spoke about. But her other sister married Breslin, who was Lieutenant Ned Breslin, was the man that put down the mine in Ballyseedy. So it's really a sore and
Sad.
it's a very poignant story of how these events unfolded for one family in Ballymacalligot at the time. There was no one from Ballymacalligot, blown up in Ballyseedy, but to me the deepest hurt of all rests in Ballymacalligot. Ballyseedy is really part of it.
Just passing on the Tralee-Killarney Road. And the inscription was, from this day forth all who pass this way will know that the men of Kerry who fought and died for Ireland are not forgotten, and their memory will endure as long as this bronze memorial stands at Ballyseedy. Unselfish upholders and fearless defenders of the Irish Republic, these 8 men of Kerry, whose name we trace with pride and remember with homage, suffered martyrdom on this spot on the night of March the 6th, 7th, 1923. Now the memorial was sculpted by the sculptor Jan Renard Goulet, who was from Brittany, and he had a coloured history, and that he was in the French resistance during the Second World War, and he was caught for trying to blow up a bridge, and he was taken into a prison camp, but mysteriously he surfaced in Paris a year later, and events became very cloudy as to his, but as a result of it, at one time there was a death sentence out against him by the French resistance, by the Vichy government and by the Germans. All 3 of them. So he had to flee with his family. He had to flee to Wales, and he eventually ended up in Ireland, and the sculpture was there. It was unveiled by the chairman of the committee set up, and John Joe Sheehy was the chairman of that committee, and it was unveiled by May Daly of Fireys, a sister of Charlie Daly, and the connection that Charlie fought on the Republican side, but he fought in the northern counties, and he was captured in the Elgin Mountains in Donegal with other Republicans, and he was executed in 1923 with 2 restoremen, Tim Sullivan and the other man was Danny Enright. Both of them, 3 of them were shot at Trombone, and there's a song, or the Trombone Actors. You know that, Tommy? And Tim Sullivan, the nephew, often comes to our singing sessions. Kim Wasabi.
Can I attempt a song?
Yeah. So